Mark Ray, we're doing this interview because Bob Thomas of Popper Photo bought your photographic archive. I was reading Patrick Egar's History of Cricket Photography, Caught in the Frame, the other day. He remarks in the final chapter, few photographers are in the happy position of seeking only to please themselves. And I thought that was quite a good description of the way in which you've gone about your work. You pursued it because you had a passion for it and a fascination with it. Would that be the correct way to characterise your oeuvre, that it's the work of someone who was drawn to it but never sought to rely on photography for a living?
Yeah, I mean, the term I sometimes use is just amateur. And Walker Evans, the great Depression era photographer in America, in a biography I read, he said the best photographers are the amateurs.
Right.
By which he meant if you're not working to someone else's agenda and someone else's deadline.
Yep.
And I was technically self-taught.
You were drawn to your subject because, of course, first of all, you are a cricketer, and your Wikipedia entry is about your cricket career, which connects you, of course, with the forefather of cricket photography, George Beldam, who was a first-class cricketer himself. And like the both of you are sort of not of the front rank, perhaps, but good enough to play, high-level cricket for a sustained period. You played 44 games for New South Wales and Tasmania. Tell us a little bit about your cricket.
Well, my highest first-class score was 94, so I never cracked it for 100. My career average was 27. But, 90% of my innings were opening the batting for Tasmania. I do say to myself that for my limited ability, and I grew up in cricket being coached by my father, who was a good park cricketer. So he taught me the very basics. So I had a bit of an odd technique and I wasn't particularly pleasant to watch, but I had a bit of guts and I could get into a tunnel against the new ball and fight like hell.
Yeah.
After the first season, when I settled into the Tassie team and started to contribute, I felt like I was doing a pretty good job. And that was when I started feeling comfortable enough to take photographs in the dressing room.
Yeah. George Beldam, out of his life as a cricketer emerged his sort of fascination with technique and with biomechanics and all their sort of commonalities and varieties. But you bring the sensibility of a kind of a street photographer, don't you? Cricket is your street.
Yeah, that's right. It's improvised.
Yeah.
Fairly simple camera equipment. No telephoto lenses, no big lenses.
Cartier-Bresson famously said that your first 10,000 photographs are your worst. Is that true of you? When did you first take a photograph that really satisfied you? Thought
first season in Tasmania, I got some good pictures. I got one of Booney standing in front of a very old timber grandstand at Hobart at the old ground, the TCA ground. It's corny and it's set up, but that wasn't bad. But the following season, I started to get the dressing room shots.
Yes.
One of Gary, it's not in the book, of Gary Goodman with the jockstrap on and his bare legs with his white socks up against the dressing room wall, just relaxing his legs. Then there was a game in Melbourne at Princes Park. There was rain on one day's play, so we were sort of washed out for 2 or 3 hours. And, some cricketers like Merv Hughes or Phil Blizzard in that team, they drive you nuts, Others were reading golf magazines. I got my camera, took some pictures there, which were pretty good. And then walked into a backroom area and saw the playpen. And so got Booney to sit in that. There was a game in Adelaide around about that time. And I know one of the pictures I got that day is probably your favourite.
This is 84,
And it's one of mine too.
Yes.
And it was just coming in off the ground at tea one day.
On the last day.
The last day. We'd been bowling.
You bowled 200 overs.
We bowled 200 overs over 2 innings because we had a lead and we sent them back in.
Yeah.
Absolute highway in Adelaide. It was hot and we couldn't get the wickets. We were heading for a draw, and when I walked into the dressing room and sat down, before I sat down, I saw the 3 bodies lying.
And you also got in the book the photograph that you took of the players waiting for the cabs after the game, which I'd never seen before.
Mm. Yeah, well, that was, a few hours later. And it's a good picture of a very tired cricket team. So
I reckon that's one of your subjects, Mark, is fatigue in cricket. I can't think of a photographer who evokes it better, that capacity for showing what a slog cricket can be.
People spend a lot of time in dressing rooms. In a test match, you win the toss on a good wicket.
Yep.
You bat till heading towards tea the next day.
Yes.
That's great for the bowlers.
Yes.
If you get a duck, you open the batting and you're out in the first 3 overs. You've got hours, 7 or 8 hours in the dressing room.
Your career kind of had a natural span. You were getting to the age where I think quite a lot of Australian cricketers retire. You had this interest in literature. You were gravitating towards a career in the media. When you got your job at the Herald in 1987, you brought your photography with you, didn't you? So you're a family man and you're touring, so you're in the position actually of quite a lot of cricketers going on tour, leaving their families behind. In fact, one of the a subtle theme or a subtle recurring subject in your photographs is children.
Well, yeah, one of the reasons why there are lots of pictures, and I mentioned this in the introduction of the book, is I miss my children.
Yeah.
And I like children. I like being around them. I also remember being a kid and playing cricket. And one of the best things my father did was he would take me to practice before a test match at the SCG. We always went to the first day of the test match, but 1 or 2 days beforehand, we'd watch them practice. So that stayed with me as well, that feeling of seeing test cricketers as heroes.
Yeah.
So there are pictures where children are with their heroes.
That beautiful photograph of the 2 kids waiting to get autographs signed at the dressing room door at the Boxing Day Test match in 1990. Can you tell us a little bit about that photograph? Because it speaks volumes, doesn't it, about the relationship between kids and their heroes?
1990, that was Graham Gooch's Ashes series.
Yep.
So I may have been downstairs near the dressing rooms at the MCG at a press conference and taking a few pictures. And I must have gone out or gone through a back door, and I could have even been leaving. And there were these 2 kids outside the back door of the Australian dressing room.
That was the game in those days, wasn't it? And it's one of the things that Mike Atherton says in his introduction to your book, is that it's a reminder of the seemingly extraordinary proximity that outside observers got to the team, which are now so completely sequestered.
It's a different world.
Well, it's a fishbowl world, isn't it?
Yeah.
And they're all, they've all got, they try to exert some sort of control over their images through the use of social media, but no such things existed in the period, 82 to 2002 when you're photographing. Who kind of preludes this modern set of values, though, is Shane Warne. He's a kind of anticipates the role of celebrity cricketer. Sometimes he was more celebrity than cricketer. You had a particular relationship with him because you were his ghostwriter, and you also were involved in helping him write his first autobiography. Tell us a little bit about your relationship with him and his relationship to the camera.
The relationship started when I was in Melbourne writing for the Sunday Age. Yeah. And then the Sunday Age asked him, would he do a column? And they said, Mark will do it with you. And he was comfortable with that. And that went on for, 2 seasons or something. So, and then the book thing came up, which meant I'd have to have longer stretches with him, usually in his hotel room. There's one picture in the book of him
with his feet up on the windowsill.
On the windowsill with the light coming in Perth after we'd done a bit for the book, and we were just sort of finishing up and relaxing, and he just leant back, and I said, okay, if I take a picture? And he said, yeah, whatever, and got that. So the relationship with Warnie was really good. I don't think I ever went out socially with him.
No.
It was just around the cricket.
Yeah. You have that lovely photograph of him examining his boots in a hotel corridor. It's a very intimate gaze. Can you tell us how you got that photograph?
It was after a practice session. And I didn't know he was on my floor. So I just eventually got back to the hotel, came up to the 9th floor or whatever, and he was near the lift. So he's under light. And I just said, what are you up to? And he said, Simone's inside with the baby, trying to get the baby to sleep. Right. So I came out of the room. So we had a bit of a chat, and I said, all right, I'll see you. And I walked down the corridor towards my room, and I just stopped, and I thought, oh, that's a nice picture.
You got the opportunity as a journalist to go to places that most photographers would not, as a matter of course. You went to both India and Pakistan. The first time you visited India was simply you were passing through, weren't you? You were in '97. You were on your way back from the UK, and you take that fantastic photograph of the Azad Maidan. Those kids at the Azad Maidan.
I stayed at Cricket Club of India.
Yep.
And I think it wasn't too far to walk to the Azad Maidan. I'd heard about it. The kid who's in the foreground, who was the brightest eyed of all of them when they were milling around, just had charisma. He stayed. He was at deep cover. He was the sweeper at deep cover. So he's 10 metres from me, I suppose. And I've got the camera ready with a big-ish lens on, not up close to the play, but he's very prominent. And there was an appeal for LBW, and it looks like a stage picture.
Yeah.
But if you look at it, they'd have to be good actors to do it.
Yeah. Now, we both love cricket, Mark, and I sometimes say that it's a great job. You get to write about something that you love, but it also changes your relationship to that subject. How has photography affected your relationship to cricket?
I suppose it's partly my photographer's eye, which leads me to it. It's an elegant game on the field, but it's also elegant off the field.
Yeah.
In terms of the bodies in dressing rooms, Terry Alderman lying on a physio's table with ice pack on his groin, or that kid throwing the bat in the air.
Yeah.
There can be an elegance to it. And I'm drawn to those lines and that elegant structure.
I'm familiar with a lot of these photographs from the time that they were taken, but I'm now coming to them as you are more than 20 years after you've finished photographing cricket, and they've gone from journalism to history. They're an encapsulation of a particular period in cricket's evolution. Does that interest you? Does that surprise you? Are these photographs that you've gone back to and gone, I didn't realise what I was photographing then, but I see it now?
Yeah, it does a bit. It does. And part of the surprise is just, as you've said, the world's changed a lot.
Yeah.
And photography's changed technically, and cricket has changed a great deal. I mean, and the other reason that it's sort of a surprise, and I can look back on that body of work from a distance, is that Bob Thomas at Pop a Photo in England approached me through Phil Brown to ask about my archive. And Phil's message was, well, there's a guy in England who is building a cricket archive, and have you thought what you're going to do with your archive? All these 400 plastic sheets, 460 plastic sheets of black and white negatives. And I said to Phil, yes, I have thought about it, and I've got no idea what I'm going to do. And talking to Bob and reading his emails made me realise that, I did some work that's different to the other guys, as you talked about. Yeah. It felt like a good pat on the back.
Yeah.
And that led to a little bit more confidence in me pushing to do another book. And one of the things I did for Pop a Photo is I scanned each sheet of negs digitally, and I looked at some of the sheets and I saw pictures that I forgot. And so, and I'm allowed to do this with a contract with Bob. I went through and re-scanned a lot of stuff, and I scanned pictures I'd forgotten about or never considered, and there are 90 odd of those pictures in this book. And when I mentioned that I had been thinking of doing another book, Bob just said straight away, you should do it.
Mm.
So it's a career book. And the career ended a while ago. And, you know, I flicked through it and I sort of think, well, I was out there and I was doing a fair bit of work. The whole thought of it being in an archive that will be protected and looked after, and it's very gratifying.
I'm very gratified, Mark. I've always been an admirer of your photographs. The first time round, the minute that I saw them, and now it's an opportunity to reacquaint myself with them in your new book. You're a great advertisement for just amusing yourself.
I like that.
Thanks very much for joining us today.
Pleasure. Thank you.